There's a particular kind of suffering that most people never talk about. It's not dramatic. It doesn't announce itself with thunder. It's the quiet ache of knowing you're capable of more, yet watching yourself do less, day after day, year after year. You see it clearly in your mind. The business you'll build, the book you'll write, the person you'll become. The vision is so vivid, so real, that for a moment you can almost touch it. But then morning comes and somehow the distance between what you want and what you do feels impossibly wide. This isn't laziness. Make no mistake about that. Lazy people don't dream. They don't lie awake at night thinking about their potential. They don't feel that gnawing sense that they're meant for something more. No, what you're experiencing is something far more complex, and understanding it is the first step toward breaking free. The human brain is an ancient instrument, refined over millions of years, not for achievement, but for survival. Neuroscience tells us it's designed to conserve energy, avoid risk, and seek immediate rewards. When you think about starting that ambitious project, your brain performs a rapid calculation. It measures the effort required against the uncertainty of the outcome. And more often than not, it concludes that scrolling through your phone is the safer bet. This is the ambition-action gap, and research shows it exists in the space between two competing systems in your mind. One system dreams. It imagines. It sees possibilities. The other system acts. It calculates. It protects you from wasting precious energy on uncertain ventures. These systems aren't enemies, but they speak different languages, and most people never learn to translate. Here's what behavioral science has consistently shown. The gap doesn't close with motivation. Motivation is like weather. It comes and goes. Some days you feel like you could move mountains. Other days you can barely move yourself off the couch. Relying on motivation is like building your house on sand. When the storm comes, and it always comes, everything crumbles. What closes the gap is understanding. Not willpower, not discipline. Understanding. First, you must understand that your resistance to starting isn't a character flaw. It's a design feature. Your brain is trying to protect you from the very real psychological cost of beginning something difficult. Because when you start, you risk discovering that you're not as capable as you hoped. You risk failure. You risk the death of the beautiful fantasy you've been nursing. So your brain, in its ancient wisdom, suggests you wait. Wait until you are more ready. Wait until conditions are perfect. Wait until you feel inspired. But here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. You'll never feel ready. The conditions will never be perfect. Inspiration is a myth sold by people who've forgotten how hard it actually is to create anything meaningful. The second thing you must understand is this. Action doesn't require clarity. This might be the most important concept to grasp. Most people wait for the complete picture before they start. They want the entire roadmap laid out before they take the first step. But that's not how life works. That's not how anything works. Think about driving at night. Your headlights only illuminate about 200 feet ahead. But you don't stop driving because you can't see your final destination. You drive anyway, knowing that as you move forward, the next 200 feet will reveal themselves. This is how all meaningful progress happens. In the darkness, trusting that the path will appear as you walk it. So what do? How do you actually bridge this gap between who you are and who you want to become? The answer lies in what psychology researchers call the principle of small wins. What is the smallest thing you can do right now that moves you even slightly closer to your goal? This isn't about small goals. This is about microscopic actions that are so easy, your brain can't justify resisting them. Want to write a book? Don't commit to writing a chapter. Commit to writing one sentence. Just one. Want to get in shape? Don't commit to an hour at the gym. Commit to putting on your workout clothes. That's it. The power isn't in the action itself. The power is in overriding your brain's resistance circuit. Once you start, momentum takes over. There's a law in physics called the law of inertia. An object at rest stays at rest. An object in motion stays in motion. You are that object. And right now, you're at rest. Not because you're incapable of motion, but because motion requires an initial force. That force doesn't have to be enormous. It just has to be enough to break the seal of stillness. But here's where most people stumble. They take that first step and expect fireworks. They expect to suddenly feel different, to be flooded with motivation and clarity. And when that doesn't happen, when they still feel uncertain and afraid, they conclude that something must be wrong. They stop. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of how change works. Change is not an event. It's not a moment of transformation where everything suddenly becomes clear. Change is a slow accumulation of unremarkable moments. It's boring. It's repetitive. It's showing up when you don't feel like it, and doing the work even when it feels meaningless. The people you admire, the ones who seem to have bridged the gap between ambition and action, they're not special. They're not gifted with some supernatural discipline. They simply learned to work without the reward of feeling good about it. They learned to tolerate discomfort. They learned that feeling like doing something and actually doing it are two entirely separate things. Consider what might be called the discipline of low expectations. This sounds counterintuitive. You've been told to dream big, to set audacious goals. But research on behavior change shows that high expectations create high resistance. When you promise yourself you'll work out every single day, you've created a standard that requires perfection. And the moment you miss one day, the entire structure collapses. You've failed. Game over. Instead, set expectations so low that failure is almost impossible. Commit to writing one sentence a day. Commit to 5 minutes of exercise. Commit to reading one page. These aren't your goals. These are your entry points. They're the door that's always open. And once you're through the door, once you've overcome the initial resistance, you'll often find yourself doing more. But if you don't, if all you do is that one sentence or those 5 minutes, you've still won. You've still kept the promise to yourself. This is how you build trust with yourself. Every time you do what you said you would do, even in the smallest way, you send a signal to your brain. We keep our commitments. Over time, this becomes your identity. Not someone who wants to be disciplined, someone who is. But there's one more piece to this puzzle, and it's the piece most people ignore. You must make peace with imperfection. The gap between ambition and action isn't just about starting. It's about continuing after you've started badly, after you've done mediocre work, after you've failed to meet your own standards. Your ambition shows you the masterpiece, the perfect version of what could be. But your action, especially at first, produces something far less beautiful. And this dissonance, this gap between the ideal and the real, is where most people quit. They can't stand to create something imperfect, so they create nothing at all. Here's what experience and common sense teach. The only way to create something excellent is to first create something terrible, and then make it slightly less terrible, and then slightly less terrible than that. Excellence is not a starting point. It's a destination you reach by trudging through the valley of incompetence. So you must lower your standards for output while raising your standards for showing up. Stop judging the quality of what you produce and start measuring whether you produced anything at all. Did you show up? Did you do the work? That's the only question that matters. The gap between ambition and action isn't a problem to be solved. It's a tension to be managed. There will always be a gap. There will always be a version of yourself that exists only in potential. The question is not how to eliminate this gap entirely, but how to make it smaller, how to take one step, and then another, until you look back and realize you've traveled further than you ever thought possible. It won't feel like you think it should. It won't be accompanied by trumpets and revelation. It will feel like Tuesday. It will feel like doing a small thing when you'd rather do nothing, and then doing it again the next day. This is the path. There is no other. The question now is simple. What is the smallest thing you can do today? Not tomorrow. Today. What microscopic action can you take that requires so little effort that you cannot justify refusing? Find that action, do it, and then, when tomorrow comes, do it again. That's how empires are built, one stone at a time.